Let's go is right, Jason. Thanks for joining me again. I feel like we're on like a talk show or something. Hi, my name is Gina, and Jason here is my guest, and he's here to keep me accountable and ask me questions and focus conversation. Both serial entrepreneurs, pretty smart people, I think, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Maybe?
Exactly.
Okay. All right. So I just wanted to do a quick update because it's been 6 weeks. I thought that we were going to reconnect in a couple of weeks. We have something actually on the calendar, but I have some results to actually share now. So I thought, hey, why not pop in a little bit early and share those results? Are you ready?
Very exciting. Yes. Let's
Okay.
hear what is new.
I am a little type A, and so I love the details. And I know that other people that are watching along love the details too, because when I am following somebody's personal journey with something and they don't tell me any of the numbers, including dates and like change metrics, it's just hard to follow the narrative, right?
Mhm. Yes.
So I don't necessarily need you to know, here's how tall I am and my starting weight, although I have no qualms in sharing that information either. I'm 5'9" and 40 years old, in case anybody is wondering. But I've been on this little journey for 6 weeks. Disclosure, because we always have to have it, not a medical doctor, just a personal trainer and a human being trying out GLP-1's, semaglutide in particular, which are your prescribed weight loss medications, working with a natural physician, a medical doctor. So I've been experimenting as a personal trainer, knowing that this is something that's not going to go away. It could be a tool in the toolbox that we can use to help people with the obesity epidemic and just the challenges of modern living and eating and moving and all of these things, right? And so
Yes.
I'm using myself as a guinea pig. And it's been 6 weeks. I started on July 25th, 2024. Today is September 5th of the same year. So 6 weeks exactly. I'm down 10 pounds.
Impressive.
1.5% body fat. So I use this handheld Omron device, which measures that electrocurrency in your water level and blah, blah, blah. I've used it for 7 years, ever since I started bikini prep for competitions and stuff. And for me, it's been consistent, accurate. So no device is going to be perfect when you're measuring changes, right? And this is not a $10,000 version of a DEXA scan or anything like that. But for me, I can measure that consistency in data points and from different time periods over almost a decade. So I know for me, this is like accurate data that my body fat has gone down. And then I use that grip strength. And next time, maybe I'll bring them in here and actually show them off. And that is going to be a measure of overall strength, right? And that's a good predictor of overall health. And that has gone up.
Oh, nice. So you lost the 10 pounds and that's gone up. So the weight loss that adds up.
Should be body fat, right?
Yep.
If we look at the 1.5% metric that I see on that tool, and then my actual grip strength is stronger. Plus, I can tell because I'm lifting regularly that my strength is not going down. Now, am I feeling some tiredness and some motivation lack? Yep, but I'm just like consistently getting the job done and knowing that muscle preservation is a big thing. Although I've been hearing more and more from what I'm tuning into about these medications that they actually can be muscle preserving. So there's this potentially misnomer out there that GLP-1s make you lose muscle. Have you heard that?
I have.
Yeah. And what I understand, again, not a medical doctor or scientist or any of that jazz, but they have compared the research between somebody that goes on a low caloric diet, just on their own, and people that are on a weight loss medication. And in both scenarios, of the weight they lose, 30% is muscle. Okay. So there's no difference if somebody's losing weight on their own, not using a GLP-1, and if they are. The difference comes into play if you're using a GLP-1 and you also strength train.
Yeah.
That's where you're not losing the muscle. And in fact, you might be able to gain some, which is hard to do when you're in a calorie deficit.
And how does that compare to, though, just using a normal caloric restriction diet? Well,
and strength training?
Yes, at the same.
So I don't have any definitive research to back it up, but if anything, from what I'm hearing, it's the same, or we have an edge with the GLP-1. And I can't point to exactly why, but maybe I'll dig into that as a follow-up to this conversation.
Oh, that's great. It's very interesting.
Yeah, and the other thing that's interesting that I've learned recently too is in that initial weight loss, probably a good portion of it that people experience is going to be water, because what's happening is we're flushing that water out of the muscles, and then there's some ways to combat that too with amino acids and like creatine, because those are, water filling, and this is getting sciencey and technical, but just kind of interesting. And that's what I think a lot of people experience in the early stages of any kind of diet and weight loss program anyways, right? You see that huge drop, and then things start to plateau, and then it's this potentially slow and steady loss, which is what
it's generally that cleanse that cleans you out, drops several pounds, and then the water drops several pounds, and that's why your initial gain or loss seems so large.
Yeah, it's also when you come back from a vacation or a cruise or something, like it's not going to be all body fat that you put on. It might be that you're dehydrated and, you just haven't been eating super well. So, all right, well, that's super exciting that I'm down 10 pounds. I notice it in my clothes, my measurements I took too. I'm down across the board. I like to measure my bust, which your chest area. Depends on what sports bra you use when that measurement. So it's about the same, but down a little bit, like a half an inch in 6 weeks. I'm one of those top down losers though. I totally know that it goes from my face down, and my like butt and thighs would be the area that decrease last, which is always the area I want to lose it from. But I mean, I want a butt. Anyhow, waist is the next one. So you've got your natural waist, which is going to be above typically the belly button, the smallest part. And then I measure the belly button and then hips, and I do hip bones with my feet in together just for consistency. And then thigh, you can either do like the largest part of your thigh, or I have like a mole, so I know and mark that as the place that I measure each time. So fun to see that my clothes are fitting again, and that I'm feeling overall pretty good. I will say this is probably one of the more hectic times in my life. I'm working 6 days a week. Kids just got back into school. I am getting up every day at 5, but I'm not necessarily getting to bed until sometimes after 10, which is late.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I am noticing more negative consequences. So I wanted to talk about that.
Okay.
So when you're on medication, obviously you can have positive and negative side effects, right?
Yeah. Before we dive into the negative, I have a question for you on so the 10 pounds. Do you primarily attribute that to like portion, less caloric intake? Like what is the reason, the math, would you say?
Yeah.
Are you
Definitely in the
exercising
last
more
10 days.
Okay.
Yeah, for sure. So remember when I started, I went on 0.1 milligrams of semaglutide, which is less than half of a starting dose. If you go to your regular doctor, that's going to be 0.25. And then I did that for 4 weeks. And then at the 5-week mark, or my 5th dose, I doubled it to 0.2, which is still less than the starting. And I did that for 2 weeks, and I took my 7th dose then yesterday, and I did 0.15. So I met in the middle. Now, this is the part that I'm still like figuring out. I was under the impression it would kind of work right away up to like the 3-month mark. So I wasn't really sure when I would start to see, I guess, results and potentially some positive and negative side effects, right? And from what I'm tuning into, it's really around that 6-week to 2-month marks, which is where I'm at.
Right.
Not surprising that I didn't see something in the first week, although some people do, but I was metabolically sufficient or whatever. Like I don't have 100 pounds to lose. So maybe that's why as well. I do have another girlfriend that's on tirzepatide, which is another version of the GLP-1. And I have to connect with her to find out all of like dosing and whatever, but she's also not a large human, and she lost 10 pounds, and she's like Dr. Tina Moore would say, back to her fighting weight. So for many of us, it's that last 10 pounds that's kind of like the hardest to lose, and a fun side effect.
So when you lost the 10 pounds though, at this point, I know you didn't measure, but would you attribute it more to less calories in, or what I guess what I'm asking is, did you change your
Yeah.
routine and exercise more? Was there a reason that you did more and burn more calories to get to this? Is it a combination of the two? Like, what would be your guess as to why this impact at this point from
Yep.
a calculation of caloric intake
Yeah.
burning point of
That's
view?
a great question. So the last 6 weeks, I would say that from a exercise standpoint, that it's actually maybe gone down because I've changed the way that I'm lifting. Instead of doing like 3 1-hour workouts, I'm doing 5 to 6 20-minute ones. And
Okay.
then I'm only walking. I did one hit running workout in that whole period of time just to see if I had any cardiovascular health anymore
Okay.
or stamina or whatever. And I
Right.
might try and sprinkle some more of those in, but obviously it's not necessary. So I am very active during the day. I'll go anywhere from 10,000 to 30,000 steps, depending on what I'm doing. But if I'm bartending, I'm like on it, right? Moving all the time, which is great because it's natural activity. It's not forced. I don't have to schedule it in or anything like that. One of the best perks about being in the service industry. And then training clients here too. I bought one of those weighted vests, and I would have to look, when I started doing that, but it's 12 pounds and I wear it for 2 to 3 hours, 1 to 3 hours maybe a day while I'm training clients. So, I'm loading and unloading weight for them. So that's like some natural byproduct activity too that would be increased, I
Mhm.
guess. Um, so on the calorie burn side, I would say maybe the same or even a little less. And then
Okay.
what I did with my diet when it comes to what we're putting into our body or what I'm eating is I didn't track. If anything, I'm paying attention to protein. So trying to really get in at least 100 grams of protein per day. I'm not restricting anything. In that first month, I still had kind of like, I guess, cravings. Like sugar sounded good. Highly palatable foods were not a turn off. And in fact, they're really not right now either. Like I had a little bit of ice cream last night and it tasted delicious. Is
Mhm.
that I don't have an appetite anymore. So I went from not feeling a big change in my appetite to, within the last 2 weeks, maybe even 10 days, it going to a halt. Like
So it's
where,
been noticeable. You
yeah,
you
oh
you would
yeah,
say
yeah.
you notice that the
It's
intake.
easy for me to not eat. I have
Okay.
to almost force myself to eat because I don't want to waste away, I guess,
Okay.
is the thought that I'm having in my head, right? Like I worked really hard for the muscle
Yeah,
that I
nice. Yeah,
have.
very nice.
Thank you, thank you. And this silly experiment would not be worth it to undo all of the years of effort that I've invested. So, it's just that I'm not excited about food. And so I
Sure.
want to find that happy medium, right? Between
Yeah.
having cravings and having like almost like the addictive relationship with sugar and stuff. And not wanting anything and making it actually turn my stomach. I need to find that middle ground, which is why I keep kind of flirting with the dosage. So if I'm still feeling this way next week, I'm going to go back down to that starting dose that I did of 0.1 milligrams.
Okay.
That would be the plan.
So it sounds like this leads into where you were going before I interrupted about some of the drawbacks or
Yeah.
some
Yeah.
cons here.
Yep. And,
So why don't we dive in there?
TMI, maybe, whatever, like nausea is not a thing. Appetite is suppressed. Definitely feeling nausea, not like so much where it's upsetting, like I can't do anything, or I'm actually throwing up or anything like that. And then loose stool, which I'm not a fan of.
Sure.
That would
Understood.
be the other part of it. That
Okay.
is not great, but
No, but those are,
normal.
yeah, normal, exactly. Yeah, so that's the degree of the drawbacks.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, um not sleeping enough, but that has nothing to do with the medication. As far as like my sister, who's a nurse practitioner, she asked me if my anxiety levels has changed. So I'm wired naturally and based on experience and all sorts of things that we're not going to unpack today to be a naturally anxious person. And I would say that my anxiety is up, but I think it's just a result of how busy I am and the stress of everyday life, not as a result of that, but it's really hard to know for sure.
Sure. No, it's a good check-in. It's a good reference point. So,
Mhm.
so you just took the the 7th dose,
Yesterday.
and you're gonna wait and see where your appetite's at, and you may adjust down if the appetite is still lacking.
Yeah. And the thought process is like a 90-day container. So I would be halfway through and I want to stick with the semaglutide. I had talked in the very beginning about going from semaglutide to tirzepatide and trying to cycle between medications in order to keep the receptives, wanting and being easily affected by them, and then potentially cycling off and whatnot. And, because this isn't a real life experiment, like I can change my mind, and I have. So that's the current thought process: is 90-day container, semaglutide only, and really playing with the dose so that I can get it to where I'm still getting results. Although I don't know how much more weight I would want to lose at this point. Like I feel great where I am. So
Nice.
more about maybe some of those other benefits that we talked about in the beginning videos, looking for that clarity of mind, which I feel pretty good, especially compared to the fact that I need some more rest. I just know that about myself. And then we came off being sick. I don't know if we had a bug or COVID's going around or, this like last week. I feel fine now, but I had sore throat, all of those kinds of symptoms that wouldn't have anything to do with this.
Sure. No, well, I'm excited to hear where we progress to the next time.
Yeah, and I have everybody asking me all the questions. So I am going to be putting together kind of like a community subscription so that I can share more about the personal journey, but really taking all of the research that I am coming across and trying to put it in one place and be more of that translator from the sciencey stuff to the layman. And what does this mean to me? Again, not giving medical advice, of course. So I'll be working on that next when I have my free time. But maybe you can help me with something like that. And then the other thing is I joined this community for trainers. So this program, they have 50 people that are on GLP-1's, and they have been for any length of time. Some people just started, like they actually haven't started, to people that have been on them for 2 years or more. And so I get to be this fly on the wall as they're coaching these participants that are on GLP-1s on all different types of doses. I'm microdosing, not probably many of them are microdosing, but more standard dosages, tirzepatide and semaglutide through their regular doctor or through one of the compounding pharmacies. And so that's been fascinating to dig into.
That brings up an interesting question, though. What is the off-ramp strategy with this in a general context and in your experiment here? Like, is this once you do it, now you're doing it forever, or what's the strategy?
I mean, I don't know definitively. And they've been around for 20 to 30 years. They've just been available kind of on the mass market for the last like 5, maybe 2017, I feel like, is when they started being prescribed for diabetes in particular. And the brand name Ozempic came out. So in that way, it's like hard to know for sure. But I think it's like, again, it's a tool that some people will use very strategically to get to where they want to be and make the changes in their lifestyle to support that continuous, like keeping the results that they've been able to achieve. So let's say they want to lose 50 pounds or whatever, and they use this as a tool in addition to strength training and changing their diet and their daily life in order to support maintaining that weight loss for all of time. They might not ever need it again in their lives. Or it could be something that somebody decides, hey, I'm going to have like a tune-up once a quarter or once a year or something like that.
And is there any ramp down that you need to do like you do with other medications or other things that you're taking?
So that I will ask the physician that I am working with at our 2-month checkup. In my mind, I think it would make for a good idea. So let's say that I'm on it for the 3 months. Do I go cold turkey? Well, I'm on such a low dose that maybe that's okay to just go off of it. Or do I somehow, it's like I measure this out, right, with the needle, and it's so small as far as the volume. So yeah, I'll ask him that and then I'll get back to you.
Very good. Well, I'm excited. This is good. And it's great that you're going to put all that information together because I think it'll be useful for me and for anybody else that's interested
Yeah.
to have the triage of thought, especially in context of these conversations that we're having.
And I think that's kind of, to brag on myself, one of my superpowers is being able to organize information in a digestible kind of coherent path for people as well. Because you're going to take this information and you're going to go to, a medical physician if you're interested in pursuing it, or you're going to take it and you're going to say, hey, this isn't for me and here's why. And the other information I'll put in there is all of the amazing stuff that we need to know and to be doing anyways, as far as protein and macros and nutrition and water and movement and maybe even some workouts and stuff. We'll see. Stay tuned. But that's some of the thought processes that I have is, what I'm learning, what I've already learned, and how would I be training clients that maybe aren't able to work with me on a one-on-one basis. So yeah, stay tuned for that. I guess this will keep me accountable to producing something, which is always a good idea. I will end with saying I was doubtful in that first 4-week period. I didn't have the negative side effects that people were talking about, and I didn't really see much movement. So I was hopeful internally shit was changing, but I was doubtful and kind of wondering, like, maybe this won't work for me. And now here I am 2 weeks after that point, feeling pretty darn good.
No, that's amazing. And I can tell from the tone and just the direction of the conversation from our last one.
Winning.
Winning is right. That's the best. So
all right, thanks.
Gina.
Appreciate it, Jason.